Hello and welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the February 16th meeting. We've already done Rule 3, and in this particular presentation you're going to see Rule 4, as well as a quick, hopefully easy, you make the call. So let's talk about Rule 4. Rule 4 is all about starting and ending the game. So before we start the game, 401 states the umpire shall proceed directly to home plate, where they shall be met by the managers of the opposing teams, just preceding the established time to begin. Well, what does all that mean? Okay, well, first off, let's talk about preceding time. Okay, 5 minutes before the game is scheduled to start, get out there. Okay? If you don't hurry them along, they will take infield outfield practice until 15 minutes past the game start time. Okay? Go right to home plate. Do not start a game without a plate conference. It's that simple. Talk about ground rules. Talk about any kind of house rules that they may have in place. If we have not been furnished a copy of their individual house rules, this is the place to ask them, coaches, are there any house rules that I need to be aware of? I was not furnished with any. If that's the case. If you were, obviously don't bring it up. Talk about certain things. How to request time. How to request a conversation with an umpire that made a call that they have a question about. Okay? We'll go over in a different meeting this year about the pregame and about a pregame conference with the managers. Okay? But understand that 401 says that you've got to go to home plate, you've got to have a pregame meeting. Make sure that you do this. 401D, as soon as the home team's batting order is handed to the umpire in chief, again, we don't generally get copies of the order. But once we do have that plate conference, and once we do have the exchange of the lineups between the managers, we are the ones that have the sole authority to determine whether a game shall be called, halted, resumed on account of weather, or the conditions of the playing field. So again, I may have misspoke in the last video where I said as soon as that first pitch is thrown. There need not be a first pitch. This is simply an instance where we can go out, and once we have that conference, we turn around, we look at the field, and we go, nice try, guys. No. But again, try and let them know that, coach, we're not going to let you play on this field until you get the field in order. Okay? So starting into the game now, 4.02, the players of the home team shall take their defensive positions. The first batter of the visiting team shall take a position in the batter's box. The umpire shall call play and the game shall start. Pretty straightforward type stuff. Whenever you're putting the ball in play, okay, batter in the box, pitcher on the pitcher's plate, catcher in the catcher's box, point out at the pitcher and state play. If you want to say play ball, fine, but it's play. So here's situation number 4 now. We've already did 1, 2, and 3 in the previous presentation. At the start of the game, the batter steps into the batter's box. The pitcher, being a little excited because he's a 12 or 11-year-old little leaguer, pitches the ball before the umpire is ready or has stated play. The batter hits the first pitch over the fence for a home run. Well, now what? Okay. You got to take a home run away from the kid. Don't let them do that. Now, normally, you're going to go through some mechanics, and we'll go through this in class, about how to step in, how to get set, how to get ready, so that there's no confusion and this doesn't happen. Okay, there are some steps that we can take to prevent this, but by rule, you're taking that home run back. Are you going to be the most popular umpire on the field? No. But the opposing manager is going to say, hey, you weren't ready. You didn't even put the ball in play. There's no way that can count. And he's absolutely right. Okay? So, unfortunately, just go through some things that we'll talk about in another session that will prevent this from even happening. 403. When the ball is put in play at the start of or during the game, all fielders other than the catcher shall be in fair territory. Okay? Catcher shall be in the catcher's box. The catcher must stand with both feet within the lines of the catcher's box until the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. Where does this come into play? Well, it comes into play a little bit on intentional walks. Obviously, we had some rule changes, and if you go back to the new rule changes in the first presentation I did. You'll be able to understand about intentional walks and how that's changed this year. But basically, it's that both feet must be in that catcher's box. The Little League catcher's box is enormous. Okay? Lines extend, first base extended and third base extended 9 feet, and then cross. From the back of the plate, 9 feet, and then there's a line that crosses between them. That's a lot of room. That kid can be back and outside a good 2 feet and still receive the ball and be well within that catcher's box. And again, he doesn't even have to receive it. He just has to step out. Okay. 404, the batting order shall be followed. Okay. Talk about batting out of order. We're talking about appeals. We'll talk about all those things at a later time. Okay, but understand that pretty much straightforward here. They've got to follow the batting order. 405, the offensive team shall station 2 base coaches on the field during its time at bat, 1 near first base and 1 near third base. So first base coach and a third base coach. The coaches shall not leave their respective dugouts until the pitcher has completed his or her preparatory pitches to the catcher. So in a perfect world, when Little League coaches know what's going on and they're actually managed correctly on the field, that pitcher throws down, they come out, and they jog out to their respective bases that they coach, whether it's manager, whether it's coaches, whether it's players who are covering. Okay? They've got to get out there and do that. Again, there are some conditions here. We already talked about who can coach. We talked about who can be what and where, how many people have to be in the dugout, things like that. So let's take this a little bit further into situation 5 now. Okay? The home plate conference, the manager of the visiting team, informs the manager that he is the only coach at the game tonight. My other 2 guys couldn't make it. They've got to work late or they've got some other commitment. He then sends his first batter to the plate and trots down to the third base coach's box. Is this legal? Well, if he's the only manager there and he is on the field and not in a dugout, what do we got? Well, we got 405 in this case, B. Okay, base coaches shall be a manager or coach, but only if there is at least one other adult manager or coach in the dugout. There needs to be an adult manager or coach in the dugout. Let's take a look and go with one step further now. Now that the manager has been instructed, and rightly so by the umpire, that he can't coach third base, he trots across to the home team dugout and asks one of the opposing coaches to help him out, since the home team has a manager and 2 coaches. So one of the coaches from the other team agrees. Should this be allowed? No. Okay, and here's a refresher on Rule 1.01. Okay. A manager and not more than 2 rostered coaches. Rostered coaches means coaches of that team. So if this guy, and again, this is a volunteer sport, but if this guy comes out and he's the only one there, then he is the only person that he has to stay in the dugout the entire time, is what that boils down to. One adult, he's in the dugout for the entire duration. He can put kids on bases, and he needs to. Okay, when we go back and we look at this, shall station 2 base coaches. There needs to be 2 base coaches. The beginning of each half inning. Should you wait? Coach, need a first base coach, need a third base coach. Yeah, you should. Okay? They need some coaches out there. You should not put the ball in play until all fielders except the catcher are in position, in play, in fair territory, and you have 2 coaches. So starting and ending going further now. When a manager, coach, or player is ejected from the game, they shall leave the field immediately and take no further part in that game. They may not sit in the stands and may not be recalled. A manager or coach ejected from the game must not be present at the game site for the remainder of the game. Any manager, coach, or player ejected from the game is suspended for his or her team's next physically played game. Okay, so this is a pretty big penalty, obviously. They're getting dumped, they're done for the day, and they can't come back or even be at the game site, so they can't sit in the stands and watch their kid play. They shouldn't even be able to sit in the parking lot in their car, but we're not there to enforce the parking lot. We just know that if Tom was dumped the previous game for arguing a call or being a general idiot about something, that he is not allowed to come back and coach the next day. So how does a team score? Right, 409. Go read the book, kids. Right, there's a lot going on in here. First of all, generally speaking, when a kid or a player touches all of the bases, including home base, without being put out, they score a run. There's a lot of other little situations in terms of what can happen if and when and things of that nature that I'm not going to go through in this PowerPoint presentation. They're all little what if scenarios. So this is the important part. Go get your nose in the rule book. Go read 409. In 4.10, a regulation game consists of 6 innings. That's the majors and below. In intermediate and above, we're playing 7. Okay. Well, what happens because of a tie score? Okay. Well, we extend this and we go into extra innings. Okay. And now we start to get into a little bit more about the what-if scenarios. How do we get to a regulated game? How is a regulation game? How is it completed? So extra innings here. If the score is tied after 6 complete, or 7 for intermediate and above, we'll keep playing until the visiting team has scored more total runs than the home team at the end of a completed inning. Or the home team scores the winning run in an uncompleted inning, meaning that the bottom of the inning, so a walk-off situation. Okay. 4.10e, if after 4 innings for majors and minors, or 5 innings for 50-70 intermediate and above, okay. Now we get into this, we get into the 10-run rule. So let's talk about some scenarios. You can read this on the screen. I'm not going to go through the wording here for you. Okay. The important part is that they shall concede the victory. Now, this is the 10-run rule. This is a league optional rule. The local league may make change to this. No 10-run rule, but there's a 2-hour time limit. Or we play a 15-run rule instead, something along those lines. This is left a little bit up to the league discretion. Tournament play, no chance, okay? 10 runs, period, end of story. So here's a scenario. Little league, okay? Not above. So we are now in the top of the 4th. And we just finished the top of the 4th. We've played at this point 3.5 innings, and we're heading into the bottom of the 4th. The score's 13-0. Is the game over? No, it's not. Okay, because we have not completed 4 innings because the away team was ahead. If the home team was ahead, well, we would have played and completed 4 innings. So what about in this situation now? So now the home team has completed their at bat. They did not put any across. We've got a 13-0 situation after playing 4 complete innings. That's it. 10-run rule is in effect. The losing team shall concede. However, if the game is called during an incomplete inning, the game ends at the last previous completed inning in each of the following situations. First off, the visiting team scores 1 or more runs to tie the score. The visiting team scores 1 or more runs to take the lead. So let's take a look now at a scenario. In this example, we are, again, Little League, playing 6. We are in the 5th inning. And let's say in the bottom of the 5th, there is no outs and a runner on first. We haven't completed that inning. The skies open up, and now we have to call the game. What happens? Does the away team win? No. We revert back. So even though the away team was ahead, we did not give the home team a chance to complete their time at bat. If the home team had completed their time at bat and got 1, 0, or 2, then we would either have, again, a loss, a win, or a tie, depending on the situation. But in this example, we revert back to the last inning's final score. In this case, it would have been 3-3. Okay? And it's a tie game at that point. You are not going to make a lot of friends when you have to explain this rule to people. But it is what it is. It's a fairness rule when it comes down to it. The home team did not have their fair turn at bat. So, therefore, the away team could not have won this game. What about tie games and resuming them? What happens if we have to resume a tie game to play it later? Well, there's an awful lot of conditions. What the score was, who the pitcher was, what the pitch count was, who was on base. What happens if little Johnny doesn't show up to the makeup game or to the continuation game? Who can replace him in the batting order? What about subs? Go read the book. And again, a lot of what if scenarios in here. And generally speaking, you don't have to know every little thing. The managers and the coaches are going to be responsible enough, or if you're in district play or state play or postseason tournament play, the league admins and the district admins, they're going to be the ones that are going to maintain that. They're going to be able to tell you what's going on. They'll give you a little bit of a help. Okay, but it is important that you have a basic understanding of who can pitch, who is on base, what happens if somebody doesn't show up, things along those lines. What about lights? Well, the umpire-in-chief shall order the playing field lights turned on whenever such umpire's opinion that darkness makes further play in daylight hazardous. Okay? So if the field has lights, generally they take about 10 minutes to warm up to full brightness. So as it's getting dark, give yourself a 10-minute window. Some of the leagues have to call somebody or have to use an app on their phone or call the town to get the lights turned on. And so make sure that you give them enough notice. Don't wait until you can't see to say, hey, can you get the lights turned on? Get them turned on early. You got clouds and potential storms rolling in, get them on early. If the guy says I can't turn them on, they're on a timer, well, hopefully you're getting the game in. There's not much you can do, but that should be a rare exception. So get the lights on early so that you can see, let alone the kids. Rule 4 Rule 4.15. A game may be forfeited by the umpire-in-chief of the game in progress to the opposing team when a team does any of these little things. Look, we're not out there to forfeit a game. These are generally egregious circumstances. Fight on the field. Uh, Last available coach getting himself ejected. Things that really shouldn't happen if you're managing the game well. So go ahead and read these if you like. The reason I de-emphasize them here is that there are so many things that you can do as an umpire to manage the game so that these 6 circumstances should really never ever come into play. You're not looking to forfeit the game. You're looking to get the game in, and you're looking to let them play. 4.16. If a game cannot be played because of the inability of either team to place 9 players on the field before the game begins, or place at least one adult dugout or manager, this shall not be grounds for an automatic forfeiture, but the game shall instead be referred to the board of directors for a decision. So this goes to the local league. This isn't a you forfeit because it goes someplace else for them to decide what actually happens. Now there's a note in here. A game may not be started with less than 9 players on each team, nor without at least one adult manager or substitute manager. You need at least one coach. Okay, got to have a coach, and you got to have 9 players. Can't start a game without 9 players. Little Johnny's on his way. He's running late from an after-school program. He'll be here any minute. We're up right now. We're the away team. He's batting 9th in the order. We'll probably never get to him. Can you start a game? No, you can't. Should you? Hey, look, that's up to you. Okay, I can't tell you what to do. The local league is going to want to get that game in, and you should try under all circumstances to get the game in. But what I would do is I'd say to the coach, you got about 15 minutes, coach, before he gets here, okay, because he can't play. Well, we'll take a player from another team to cover. No, you can't do that either. Does it happen? Yeah. Should it happen? No. Okay? So these are things where you don't want to go out there and you don't want to start a game because what happens if some little kid gets hurt? God forbid it's from a player on the opposing team picking up a bat, swinging it, clocking the kid in the head by accident. Now we've got a situation. Why was this kid in this dugout? Why was he on that team? He doesn't play for that team? Why did you allow this to happen? Okay, so these are liability rules now. It can become a safety rule, but it can become a liability rule where, again, if you go out and you allow this to happen in knowing violation of the rules, it's on you. Okay? I don't take that chance personally. I'm not willing. I have personal liability insurance, but I don't ever want to sit in front of a judge. We live in a litigious society these days. People are going to sue. If a little kid gets hurt and he needs plastic surgery because somebody bashed his face in with a bat accidentally, some parent is going to be looking for retribution. They're going to be looking at the coaches. They're going to be looking at Little League Baseball. They're going to be looking at an umpire, and somebody's going to be at fault. And if the umpire said, oh, well, yeah, the rules state that you got to have 9 players on each team, but you let the game go on anyway, well, guess what? You're in trouble. 4.17. If during a game either team is unable to place 9 players on the field due to injury or ejection, the opposing manager, we already talked about this a little bit, okay? The important part down here is that a game may not be continued with less than 9 players on each team. This is not pick up a player from the other team because they had 10. If you've got 9 on one team, 9 on the other, you start a game, one gets hurt, one has to leave. They couldn't even pull another player from the other team. I don't care if that team is at bat or not. That game is over. And again, it's not an automatic forfeiture. It goes to the local league, goes to the board of directors for a decision on that. But don't let the game continue if both teams can't have at least 9 players. And I know this is tough, but again, we're getting into liability things where you are knowingly violating rules, and rules are there for that reason. Protest. The good old protest. There's always a coach that comes out, I want to protest that call. Well, what is generally your first reaction? I thought he was safe at first. You called him out. I'm protesting the game. Well, protest can only be based upon a violation or interpretation of a playing rule. They cannot be considered on a decision involving an umpire's judgment. Safe out, judgment call. Ball strike, judgment call. Okay? If they think that we interpreted a rule incorrectly or that we didn't know a rule, they can protest the game. Okay? Easy example, runner on first. Batter runner hits a ground ball to the second baseman. The runner from first, on his way to second, runs into the second baseman before that fielder has a chance to make a play on the ball. That's an interference. If you call obstruction on that play, that's a violation or interpretation of a playing rule. They can protest that. And if it turns out that they come back, okay, that decision can be overturned. They can replay the game, whatever happens post-protest. But it's important to understand here the reason of a protest is generally comes up in Little League when an umpire doesn't know a rule. Make sure that you know your rules. Make sure that you're going through a rule book. It's the misapplication of a rule. It's never a judgment call, but it's where you get a rule wrong during a playing action generally that you're going to run into that protest. All right, quickie, you make the call. All right, so this should be a no-brainer, but I thought the play was pretty cool when I saw it on YouTube. So let's take a look at the play.
Swing he made to Gomez take on that slider. Look at that. Is that a catch? It's in his mask. Ball never hit the ground on a foul tip. 2 strikes.
All right, so the commentators in their infinite wisdom brought up some pretty interesting points. Okay, is that a catch? Foul tip, ball never hit the ground, it's in his mask. So again, let's go back and look at the viewpoints and the outcomes. What does the offensive manager want? Well, the offensive manager wants a foul ball. He doesn't want him out. He wants this guy to keep swinging. What does the defensive manager want? Well, pretty much the opposite. He wants the batter out on a foul tip. The umpire, again, yeah, we'd love an out here, but we want to get the call right. So, in this situation, let's go back to that slide for a second and take a quick look. Here's the situation here. Okay, there's no outs. It's a 2-2 count. I don't care about the inning at this point, but there's nobody on base. So we're going to explore this from 2 scenarios. One, okay, nobody on base as it occurred. And 2, what happens if there was a runner on third? All right, so let's move on, take a look at these again. Offensive manager wants foul ball, defensive manager wants the batter out, and the umpire wants to get it right. So what are the arguments going to be? Defensive manager who wants the out says, hey, that was a foul tip. It wasn't dropped. It's 2 strikes. Okay? He's going to want basically what the commentator said. They want it out there. The offensive manager wants the player safe. It wasn't caught. So let's go ahead and take a look at the foul tip clause. All right? Defensive manager here says, a foul tip, by definition, is a batted ball that goes sharp and direct from the bat to the catcher's hands and is legally caught. It's not a foul tip unless it is caught, and any foul tip that is caught is a strike, and the ball's in play. It is not a catch if it is a rebound, unless the balls first touch the catcher's glove or hand. A foul tip can only be caught by the catcher. Okay, so really the red part. Sharp and direct from the bat to the catcher's hands. Did it go to his hands? No, went straight to his face. Got stuck in his mask. That's pretty awesome. Doesn't apply. So what we have, we got the defensive manager out of luck. So let's take a look at the offensive manager who wants him safe. Says, hey, that's not a catch. Again, same thing applies. Okay, it's got to go sharp and direct from the bat to the catcher's hands and is legally caught. It wasn't, so guess what? The offensive manager gets his win. Okay? Now, the umpire's ruling. A foul tip must go directly from the bat to the hands. This did not, therefore no catch, no out, foul ball. Okay? No runners may advance. The ball is dead. Get the ball out of the mask, throw it out, get a new one, put the ball back in play, and press on. However, that's nobody on base. Okay, we're up until there. But additionally, if we had runners on base, and this is a call that is going to get you in trouble. They're not going to be happy with you. But 509, Part G. Okay, so 509, the ball becomes dead, and runners advance 1 base or return to their bases. Now, A through H or J or K or however many stipulations in some clauses there are in here, all carry different situations. Should the runners advance? Do the runners go back? But in G, when a pitched ball lodges in the catcher's or umpire's mask or paraphernalia, runners advance. So if there were runners on base, especially on third, that runner's getting the plate. Runners are going to advance. You're scoring a run on that once in a million chance. Now in Little League stuff really is pretty much manufactured so that this couldn't happen. Pitchers don't pitch the ball hard enough for it to lodge in anything. Every once in a while you'll see a foul ball that gets caught up in the screen of the fence of the backstop, but other than that, that doesn't count here. Other than that, this is if the ball becomes lodged. So something happens, foul tip, ball bounces off your mask, goes down into your shirt, gets stuck there. It happens. YouTube some MLB weird plays, and you'll see that ball getting stuck everywhere. Players' shirts, gloves, everything going on. But just understand that if that ever happened to you, you're advancing runners. Okay? So if the count on the batter is less than 3 balls, runners advance 1 base. And that's all we've got. That's 3 and 4. Any questions? You know where to find me. Thanks, guys.